This hour, we're going to talk about education. When national education scores and achievement metrics were released every year, it used to be that the folks in Mississippi could always know where to go to find theirs. They would go to the bottom. For decades, Mississippi routinely ranked the lowest in many of the nation's testing rankings. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP scores, that came out of Mississippi were often so poor that the satirical term, "thank God for Mississippi," became widely used in other state capitals. The phrase was a reminder that no matter how bad your state had done, you could always count on at least beating Mississippi. But then everything changed. In the last decade, through a series of policy and curriculum changes, Mississippi started to climb in the rankings. No longer was the state a laughingstock, but rather it became a model for the entire nation. Test scores increased, graduation rates increased. Mississippi students went from performing a full grade level below their peers around the country to performing nearly a half a grade level above the average U.S. student. This all happened between 2013 and 2024. And after adjusting for demographics in 2024, Mississippi was the nation's #1 state in reading as well as in mathematics. Literally, #1 in the nation in reading and math. We call it the Mississippi Miracle. And joining us to discuss this miracle today is the governor behind this incredible turnaround. His name is Tate Reeves, the governor of Mississippi. Governor Reeves, welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
Well, hello, Scott. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Well, we're really proud to have this conversation and proud of what you have accomplished on behalf of school children in Mississippi. So I'll just start here. How did you do it?
Well, first of all, Scott, I think you have to go back to the 2011 elections, because people like you and me know that elections have consequences. And in 2011, for the first time since Reconstruction, Mississippi elected a majority of the state Senate was Republicans. A majority of the state House of Representatives were elected as Republicans, and we had a Republican governor. And we had, I grew up and went to public schools at Florence High School, and I got a great education. So while I certainly never believed that we had the worst educational system in America before that, there were certainly, as you point out, statistics that would prove otherwise. Well, we went in and we instituted a series of conservative reforms, primarily in 2012 and 2013, in our legislature. We then worked with our State Department of Education to ensure that they implemented those reforms in an appropriate manner. And here we find ourselves 10 years later, and it was even the New York Times called it the Mississippi Miracle. But I'll be honest with you, Scott, I use that term a lot, that phrase a lot, because it gets people's attention. But I'll be honest, it really wasn't a miracle at all. We just put in good, strong, conservative reforms, and they've made a huge difference for all of our kids in all of our school districts.
Let's talk about the reading scores. The turnaround in literacy and reading has been nothing short of remarkable, and it seems like phonics education has been the key. Can you talk about that, implementing a return to studying phonics? Was that the trick to this whole thing?
It played a significant role. At the time, we called it the third grade reading gate. Now it's it ended up having an official name of the Literacy-Based Promotion Act. And yes, we did go back to the basics. We started teaching reading the way folks that are my age and older learned how to read, and that was to go back to phonics. There was this long-standing feud within the academia world about how the best way was to teach reading, and clearly that debate is no longer. Phonics is the best way for kids to learn how to read, and we did that in Mississippi. But we didn't just go back and start teaching phonics. We also implemented what was then called the third grade gate, which is in essence, we test our kids for reading abilities at the end of the third grade. And if you cannot read at a certain level by the end of the third grade in Mississippi, there is no such thing as social promotion. You do not get promoted to the fourth grade if you cannot read at a certain level. That is, I think, critical, because what gets measured gets done. It ensures that there's accountability in place for those individual students and for their parents We ensured that we had accountability in place for our great teachers, and it's just made all the difference in the world. We also didn't stop there, and I was actually with, as you know, a large number of Republican governors over this past weekend, and we spent a lot of time talking about this. The thing that we also did that doesn't get as much publicity, but it should, we set a cut score in 2013 once the legislation passed, and we've raised that cut score 4 different times, so that every time we get comfortable, every time we get to a point where 96, 97, 98% of our kids are reading at a certain level, well, then we raise what it takes to be able to pass on to the 4th grade. Again, raising those accountability measures. So many states in this country have tried to reduce accountability and reduce what it takes to move on. We've done the exact opposite, which seems like common sense to me, because whether you're playing basketball or football or reading, you've got to keep raising the bar, and you got to keep working and getting better. And the better you get, the harder you got to work to get better from there.
That voice you're hearing on the show today, Governor Tate Reeves of the state of Mississippi. We're talking about the remarkable and dramatic turnaround and improvement in education scores in Mississippi. Now, Governor Reeves, you said that you elected a bunch of reform-minded Republicans to the state legislature, and you had a Republican governor, but I know you ran into some resistance as you were trying to do these reforms on education. Talk about the resistance. Who resisted you? What hurdles did you have to overcome? Because there are other Republican states sitting out there who simply haven't been able to go as far as Mississippi. In fact, I'm sitting in one of them today here in Kentucky. Tell us about the resistance, how you overcame it, and your advice for Republicans in policy-making positions around the country.
Well, we refer to those that resisted us and, quite frankly, resist all change as the coalition of the status quo. The people who have been doing it for so long and are absolutely convinced that they have to be doing it right because, after all, they've been doing it the same way for so long. The reality is that you can look at your numbers, and if you're not moving up, then you're getting passed up. I remind folks in Mississippi and across the country all the time, we've gone on an absolute basis from 49th in the nation in 4th grade reading to number 9 in America overall in 4th grade reading. Yes, when adjusted for our demographics, we go up to number 1. But if you don't adjust for demographics, we're number 9 in the nation. And we just had to have enough politicians with guts to stand up and say to those who were fighting us, to the coalition of the status quo, in large measure to the very school superintendents that claim that they are focused on doing what's best for children, that did not want to change the way they do it, that did not want increased accountability standards. We just stood up and said, we're going to do more. We're going to give our teachers the tools that they need to do the great things that they've done. And oh, by the way, in my first term as governor, we passed the largest teacher pay raise because as a conservative, I believe in rewarding success. And that's exactly what we've done in Mississippi.
That's Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi. They have had a dramatic and frankly, miraculous turnaround in education. That has paid dividends for the state of Mississippi as reading and math scores and high school graduation rates have gone up. It has led to business investment opportunity. There are businesses now even leaving California and moving to Mississippi, and Governor Reeves put his state in a position to take advantage of all of that. Governor Reeves, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Scott. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, sir.